How is it going, everybody? Thank you, Jersey. So I made it 2 nights in a row. I know it's hard to believe. It's hard to believe for me too, but I actually managed to pull it off. So how is everybody doing tonight? And do I have anybody new in here tonight? Oh, and as usual, there are tabs. There's tabs for what we're going to be going over in the description for the video, so make sure you download those. And I think there's, because of the stupid format that we have to do it in, I think it's like 5 sheets, but you know, they're like only half sheets. But anyway, as from what the title says, we're going to be looking at a Metallica song. We're not going to be doing the whole song. We're just going to be doing some, like the whole intro. So it's for the song "Eye of the Beholder." So even if you're not familiar with Metallica, it doesn't matter. We're not doing this just because it's a cool riff. That's beside the point. But this riff is really, really good for working with rhythm, because it has a lot of parts of it where it's just single notes, but it's the rhythm of it and the counting and the picking technique and everything, with incorporating palm muting in between notes and stuff like that. So it's pretty cool. And well, my private students, I always go over this with them. Even if you're not even into this kind of music, I really recommend that you learn this, because it's just such a good riff for developing rhythm and timing and stuff. Hello, Crit. So yeah, like I said, there is a link in the description where you can download the tabs. So download those tabs, and then we can get started with this. Oh, okay. Trying to figure out how to make it so I can see the tabs without it blocking up the whole dang screen. All right. So for this, like the riff, when they're playing, they have a lot of distortion, a lot of overdrive. Even if that isn't isn't even a style you're interested in, you never play with distortion, or you have no interest in playing with distortion, I recommend that you practice this with distortion. And the reason for that is that when you have a lot of gain, there's all kinds of little weird noises that can come from the guitar if you're not muting the strings. So like if I just turn my volume up, and you can hear like the hum because of the terrible ground, but as I bump the guitar or move it, anything, it makes a bunch of noise unless I'm keeping the strings quiet. So even though the first part of this, hello, Rick, even though the first part of this is just played just on the low E string, you have to keep the other strings quiet because they'll just start vibrating. Now, if you're playing with a clean tone, or without an amp like this, you're not going to notice it. So this is the reason why I recommend you practice it with the overdrive on. So it will force you to be better. It will make your technique better. So when you're playing with a clean tone, it's going to be all that much better. I never really understood the whole thing. I've always, when I was younger, had older guitar players tell me that players who play with distortion or with overdrive, with a lot of gain, aren't any good, that they're hiding behind the gain. And that just doesn't make any sense, because it's a lot harder to play clean when you have a lot of gain than it is when you're playing with a clean tone. All right. So I'm assuming everyone got those tabs. And if you just joined us, welcome. And there's a link in the description where you can get the tabs for what we're going to be doing here. All right. So we're looking at the intro riff for Eye of the Beholder. So what we're going to be learning is everything that happens in the song right up to where the vocals start. So we're going to divide it into a couple of different parts. So the first thing we're going to work on is just this first measure. So if you're familiar with the song, this is the riff that's being played. The song fades in from silence. It, has a, like a volume swell, and it's just this. So we're in 4/4 time. So, we're just going to be counting, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? But we've got, if you notice here, we've got 4 16th notes, and then another group of 4 16th notes, and then 2 8th notes, and then 2 16th notes and an 8th note. So each one of those groupings is a beat. So the first 4 16th notes is a beat. And for those of you who do not know how to count, I'm just going to assume that there's a lot of you that don't know how to count. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this, but 16th notes is where you divide one beat into 4 parts. So how we count that is since this is beat number 1, we start by saying 1. 1, E, and So 1, E, and And then now we're on to the second beat. It's another group of 4 16th notes. So we're going to count the same way, but now we'll start with 2. 2, E, and All right. Then for beat 3, we have 2 8th notes. So an 8th note is a beat that's just divided into 2 parts. So we count those as you say whatever beat number and then and. So in this case, it's beat number 3. So it's going to be 3 and. So you have 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 and. And then the last one, we've got 2 16th notes and an 8th note. So the 2 16th notes plus the 8th note accounts for beat number 4. So we would count that 4 E and then and. So that 8th note is going to ring out for twice the amount of time that the 2 16th notes. So we've got 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E 4 E and. I keep wanting to say 3 E instead of 3 and, but it doesn't really matter. I mean, technically you could go 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 1 2 3 as long as you're getting that same amount of timing. All right, so also on here on the tab you can see that all of the notes in that first measure, with the exception of the last one, are palm muted. That means that all of those we're going to be palm muting like that, except for the very last note. So this first measure, and we're going to do the 16th notes as down, up, down, like 1 E and 2 E and 3 E 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 and 4 E and. Okay, so how I do, actually, I guess it has the pick strokes actually on there. So this isn't just alternate picking. It's not just, down, up, down, up, down, up the whole time. As you can see on there, it's all alternate picked until we get to the and of 3. The and of 3, the downbeat of 3, the and of 3 are both downstrokes, and then the downbeat of 4 is a downstroke, and then an upstroke, and then finally ending on a downstroke. So does that make sense to everybody? Man, this amp may not have been such a good idea. I fired at my angle, but my 88 power amp has got something wrong with it, making some crazy noises. I just want to get this out of the way, or if anybody has any questions about what we've talked about, if you have any confusion or whatever, let's address it now. But one thing I do want to address before it becomes a thing, because if somebody hasn't already said it, I'm sure that somebody's thinking it, is that the whole thing about James Hetfield only doing downstrokes, his down picking thing. Yeah, there's a lot of things that he does play that way, but I really don't think this is one of them. I just don't know how he could get that feel for it. But even regardless if he did or didn't, it sounds fine to play it this way, and it's a lot more efficient to you know, to not just pick in one direction. Alternate picking, is always going to be more efficient. It's like you could ride a bicycle with, take one of your legs off and just pedal with one leg and you could still move, but why? It just makes it harder. All right, so yeah, so that's that first measure. That's basically the timing for most of this. Okay, so how I'm keeping the other strings quiet, like I talked about in the beginning, is I'm just letting my fingers just rest on my fretting hand just across the first 5 strings. Not pressing down, just letting them touch. So that keeps it quiet. So you kind of want to do it down towards the lower part of the neck, because the next thing that's coming is we're actually going to have to do a couple of dyad shapes. So if you just kind of keep it down in this area, like I would recommend just keeping it so your first finger's at the 2nd fret, so that way when you transition into this first chord, it'll be easy. So just like that. Now I've got it on there to repeat it 4 times. I don't even remember if I counted it or not when I did. I mean, I made this transcription like a million years ago, but the song fades in. But what I would really recommend you do, like I said, this is a cool song, cool riff and everything, but the whole kind of purpose behind this is to work with this rhythm and timing. So if you just work on this first measure until you've got it down and you can play it well, not necessarily at tempo, but so you could at least, get it so it's in time. Practice with a metronome too. I really recommend that. Then you can move on to the second and third measures. Now, the second and third measures, you can see at the beginning of the second measure, it's the beginning of a repeat, and then the third measure is the end of the repeat. So it's going to be the same. We're going to be doing the same rhythm, but we're going to kick it up a notch, and we're going to be playing, instead of just the low E string, we're going to be playing the low E and the A string together for parts of it. Now, Jersey, I'm sure that this is relatively a new thing for you to play like this. Don't sweat it. Just work on it. I mean, if you get nothing else out of this, you just get the first measure down. That's an extremely helpful and beneficial thing, I think. Okay, so starting on that second measure, it's the same timing, the exact same counting, the same picking, but what's going to be different is that starting on beat 3, instead of just playing the open low E string, we're going to play, you're going to have your second finger onto the 3rd fret of the low E, and then your first finger onto the 2nd fret of the A string. So it's a G major dyad. It's just the same way if you were going to grab a G major chord, you put those fingers there. So we're going to have 1E and a 2E and a 3E, 4E and. Like that. So you want to get that. So you have to play both in mute, but again, we want to keep these other strings quiet. So part of that is being accomplished by this part of my hand, as it's just sitting here on the bridge. And then the other part of it is when I play this chord, my first finger is kind of drooping down. So it's just lightly touching those first few strings to keep it quiet, keep it muted. All right, so that second measure again. So the first two together. All right, now going on to the third measure. Now we've got, it's actually, it's a G5, but we're going to flatten the root note down to an F sharp. So G5 over F sharp. So going from here, if you take your first finger and you just move it down, so now it's on the second fret of the low E string, and then take your pinky and grab the 5th fret of the A string. Now on this measure, we're going to do the same timing again, but this time we're going to play just this shape for the entire measure. So we're going to do the 1E and the 2E and the 3E, 4E and. So that sounds, just playing it by itself, it sounds pretty weird. I mean, that's really dissonant sounding. But with those two measures 2 and 3 together, then it completes the whole riff. Like that. Now, I know we kind of went through all of that relatively quick, but again, it's just the same timing on all of it. So what I really recommend you would do is you would just work on that first measure, get that down. Even if you're playing it relatively slow, that's totally fine, just as long as the timing is correct. Work with that one, and then when you get where you can do that one pretty good, then go ahead and add in that second measure, because then you're going to be playing with the 2 strings. Once you have that, where that's not an issue playing the 2 strings together, then when you switch to this other chord, it'll be really simple, because you don't really have to do anything other than just do that, through the whole measure. All right, so that concludes what I would call part 1 of this. The 4th measure is a part in all of its own. So does anybody have any questions about what we've gone over thus far? Now, that power amp's got some issues. Yeah, Crit, that's, like we've been saying from the first, that this is fairly simple when you really look at what it is, but that also depends on your perspective. If you've been playing for a long time, it might seem really easy. If you just started playing last Tuesday, it might seem impossible. But instead, if you just work on just that first measure and just do it slow and just work your way, just the. I'm following along, but without my guitar. Well, Rick, you got your air guitar with you, don't you? You can always use your air guitar. All right. Guess we can move along. All right. So this 4th measure, like I said, it's kind of its own thing. As you can see, that measure is just itself is repeated 4 times. So the timing on this is, you got 1E and 2 and 3E and 4E and 1E and 2 and 3E and 4E and. But an easier kind of way to count it, to how I always show my students how you can count it to help you to really get the rhythm down, is to count it 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3. So the 3 on the 1 2 3s is an 8th note, so it rings out twice as long as the other note does. 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3, and just kind of drag that 3 out, and it's just the open low E string, but palm muted the whole time. 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3, down up down 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 up down. So that's a really good exercise in its own right there. All right, so that little rhythm right there is kind of the pedal behind the what comes throughout the rest of the song, or the rest of the part that we're going to be looking at. So this next part that we're going to be looking at here, like what I'm like calling part 3, we're going to be doing what we've already done, plus we're going to be adding a more fuller chord in with it. So it's going to be more and more switching back and forth. So this might be a part that maybe you come back to, if you're a beginner, you might come back to later. It may not be, like right now that you're able to do this, but always have the video to, run back, rewind on, right? Okay, so this next part, after we do the measure 4 times, then we go on to measure 5. So measure 5 starts off the same way. We've got that 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 2 3 1 2 if you want to count it like that. And then we've got an E5 power chord here. So I'm on the 7th fret of the A string with my first finger, and then the 9th fret of the D string with my 3rd finger. So we do this palm muted. That's right, Jay. It's all about practice. That's what pretty much the bottom line with anything, with learning to play or playing whatever, is your willingness to do it as much as it takes to be able to do it. Okay, so we start off that same way, that 1 2 3 1 2, and we're palm muting that, and then we're going to come up here to this E5 here. Now, this is starting on beat 3. 3E. So we've got the 1 2 3, like where the 3 rings out a little bit, and then we're going to flatten the note on the on the D string a half step. So we're going to get this diminished 5th here. So that's now when we hit that, a little bit of vibrato on it, and that's coming in on beat 4. So it's a dotted 8th note. So it's basically the first 3/16 note, 3/16 worth of that beat, and then on the very last 16th note is where it starts over again with the open string. So this is a part here that it's confusing when you look at it on paper, because what we're going to be playing is the same riff over and over again here. So even though it's the same riff, that riff doesn't take up 4 beats. So it looks kind of weird on paper or whatever. But so if you look at the beginning of the riff on the downbeat of 1 on measure 5, and then when it starts over again, it's on the very last 16th note of beat number 4. So we do it 1 2 times, and then the second time ends at the on the first half of beat 4. So now we've got 2 16th notes that lead over into the next measure, and then the next one we've got 3 that lead over. So in a sense, what it is that when you're practicing this at home, if you just look at measure 5 and you play all of that except that very last open low E string, and you just keep repeating that, So you do the part 3 times, and then it ends with one more, and then that's where it's going to go on to the next part. So if you just, when you play that, just count it. All right. So before we go on looking at that, does anybody have any questions about what we've talked about thus far, or just guitar questions in general? Because, you know, as usual, this is just like a regular, you know, Q&A. I just wanted to do something, you know, have, you know, a little lesson. And last night, one of you guys was kept asking me to play like a Metallica riffs or whatever, and then when I played this one, it made me remember, oh, this is like a good exercise. So I thought it'd be good to show you guys. And if you're just joining us, there's a link in the description where you can download the tabs for this. And if you like what I'm doing, hit the thumbs up button. You know, think about subscribing to the channel, all that good stuff. Leave a comment. All that really helps the powers that be know that I'm doing a good job. Oh, awesome, Crit. Yeah, they have a lot of fun riffs to play, actually. Oh, Jersey, you'll be able to do it. Like I said, it's just start off just with that one string. Just, you know, just getting the 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. You know, just work your way up from it. Or work your way up to it, I should say. Yeah, I know I lost my place here. Okay. So after we do the, that's one time. We do 3 of those. Hello, Paul. After we do that part 3 times. So what I'm meaning by that's 1. So we do 3 of those. Then after we do 3, we have the next little riff. So it starts off the same way. And I'm on measure 8 right now. So after we do then we're going to come up to the 8th fret on the D string. And we're going to pick that and do a hammer on to the 9th fret and then pull back off. And then we're going to do the same thing on the A string, but we're going to move down a half step. So now we're at the 7th and 8th fret. So another way you can do it, I've had some of my students do it this way, but I already, you know, I've been playing this riff for a million years, so I don't have any issue. But you can, without changing your hand position, since your 3rd finger is already playing the 9th fret of the D string, you can just drop your middle finger, and then your 1st finger's playing that note. So that's probably a more efficient way to do it, but I've, you know, been playing it this way forever. And for what comes after this part, you kind of have to do it that way anyway. So once you get to the point where you can practice, you know, or so when you got that down, then that's where you're going to want to do this next one. So then it goes right back into that again. So again, it's so if you are relatively new and you don't understand what a hammer-on is and a pull-off or how to do them. So basically what it is that, so the note we're picking is on the 8th fret. So we're going to pick that. And then with my 2nd finger, I'm going to hammer my finger down onto the 9th fret. Now you don't want it where you just set it down. You want to actually bang it down so your finger is actually hitting down hard enough to fret the note. So if I don't pick first and just, you want it so it actually rings when you hammer it down. Then when you do a pull off, it's not exactly just the opposite. You don't want to just lift your finger off like that. You want to drag it off. So I'm dragging my finger off, so it's plucking the string. And since my first finger is down here, that's the note that it goes back to. Like that. Now, on this, probably the most difficult part, unless you've never done a hammer-on and pull-off before. So if that's the case, and right now you're doing it, you're like, oh my gosh, this is really hard. Just do it really slow and just keep practicing it. You'll get it. It's just kind of one of those things. Some people get it really easy, and other people it's harder for whatever reason. But I've been teaching for a very, very, very long time, and I have never had a student that I thought, wow, this person just can't learn how to play guitar. That's never happened. Okay. So after we do then we go right back into the same, and we do it 3 times again. Now we're going to go do the same part, the hammer-on pull-off thing, but it's going to be extended this time. So this time, so we do the 8-9-8 on the D string, and I'm on the 11th measure right now, by the way. So we do the 8-9-8. Now we're going to move down a half step and down a string. So now we're on the A string, 7 and 8. Now we're going to move down a half step again and down a string again. So now we're 6 and 7 on the low E string. So you got. Now, again, like what I was talking earlier about the string noise, like the strings ringing out and the guitar just making a bunch of rackets. So while I'm doing these, I'm not clear, coming out like this and leaving the strings, free to start making rackets. So I've got my first finger is muting those first strings. And then the lower strings, because these ones will start making noise too. I'm holding the pick with my thumb and first finger. I just got this ball part here of my thumb just resting on those lower strings. So after we come and we do 6 and 7 on the low E, now we're going to move it all the way down and do 2 and 3 on the low E string, and then just a regular E5. So and that's the whole riff leading up to where the vocals come in. And that's the furthest we're gonna go with. Like I said, it wasn't so much a thing as to learn how to play the whole song as it is to learn these 3 different. I guess it's actually 3.5. We'll look at it that way. It's like 3.5 different riffs that are really, really useful for tightening up your technique with muting, being able to switch between palm muting and not palm muting back and forth, changing up your pick stroke so it's not just straight alternate picking or straight down or straight up. So it's got this kind of a variety. Variety isn't really the word I'm looking for here, but it's just going to make you more well-rounded to be able to play a lot of different things. And I found that when you do exercises like this, that your hands kind of gets a mind of its own. So when you go into stuff with picking or with strumming, sometimes you'll just play and you won't even be thinking about what you're doing, and it'll just sound really good because your hand and your brain, get on the same page, but you just maybe not fully aware of it. Yeah, that's pretty cool, huh? That's I always thought that was really a really cool riff. um, yeah, but like if after um after this part, when it goes in, like I said, where the vocals are or whatever, it's actually still just some of the same stuff. It's that like second and third measure where they start singing. And then they're something like that. I can't remember, but the whole song is really cool. But said I mostly just wanted to work with this beginning part here because it's just got all these different things. It's really good for your timing uh, and just your overall technique. Now, I really, really recommend you practice this with a metronome. Um, I know that the metronome isn't a real positive subject for most of us. You know, like most people, you know, a lot of people just absolutely hate it. And then I've even heard some really, you know, good influential players make comments saying that you shouldn't practice with the metronome, and I strongly, strongly disagree. Uh, Timing is kind of the foundation for everything. It's like the most. It's, in my opinion, it's like the most important aspect. Think about it. Average people who are not musicians or whatever, they can go to a concert and the band will be doing something and they'll get the audience, they're all clapping, right? Or they're all, you know, stomping their feet or whatever it is they're doing, you know, tapping their foot, you know, they're tapping on the steering wheel when they're driving their car. If the rhythm doesn't fall apart, regular people don't notice things usually, like, you know, someone hits the wrong chord. They might, oh, that sounded weird, but as long as the rhythm stays good, they can keep going with it. So I'm just a huge believer in that rhythm is really, really, really important, and it's also really, really overlooked, I think. But it's more important, I think, than a lot of the other things that people are, you know, worrying about getting down, you know, with playing or whatever. All right, so yeah, so that's basically all of the parts to this. And if you're just joining us, there's a link in the description where you can get the tabs for this. And when this is over, you'll be able to watch, you know, go back and watch the replay and, you know, get all the little ins and outs of playing it and stuff. But yeah, so that basically is it. We still have some time. Does anybody have any questions about this or just anything in general, any general guitar stuff? While y'all are typing, you know, in those questions, have you guys seen the like celebration benefit tribute thing, whatever video that the concert they did for oh my gosh, brain fart in his name, Hawkins, the drummer, the late drummer from the Foo Fighters, brain fart in his first name. But has anybody watched, thank you, Taylor Hawkins, man, has anybody watched that and watched the part with Wolfgang Van Halen playing Hot for Teacher? Yeah, it was, I mean, was that something? I was blown away. I just saw it last night. I was watching Rick Beato video and he was showing it, and he sounds, I mean, he can play exactly like his dad. I mean, he had the whole feel and timing and everything for that down just perfect. And I never really paid very much attention to him, I'll be honest. I just, when he got into Van Halen, I just thought, oh, he, you know, he's the boss's son, so he gets to be in Van Halen now or whatever. and he's like an incredible musician. I mean, his new album that he did, he played everything on it. And he, played the different instruments, and he sang. He's really good at everything that he plays. But because that was always kind of the tricky thing with Eddie Van Halen stuff, wasn't because it was so amazingly hard to play, technically like that. It was just getting his groove and his timing, and he's got it. It was really amazing. Oh, I didn't see that, Crit. I haven't watched the whole thing. I seen it pop up on, I don't even remember, on, I don't know if was like Netflix or Hulu or something. I saw a thing for it, and I was like, oh, I should watch that, and I haven't gotten around to it. But it was just, I just saw some clips that Rick Beato was showing last night, and it was or I don't know if it was last night. That was when I saw the video. But anyhow, it was just absolutely amazing. So yeah, if you haven't checked him out, check him out. He's the real deal. I mean, like, really, really good. Let's see, any other songs coming? Yeah, there'll be other ones coming. I don't know what. I didn't know that I was going to be doing what I'm doing today until this morning. I mean, I thought last night, oh, that was a good idea. And then this morning I decided that's what I was going to do. Oh, it's on YouTube. Okay. Yeah. I couldn't remember where I'd seen it. Yeah. I'm going to have to check it out, because that was like really impressive, the way that, he just got right into that pocket. Because that intro riff on Hot for Teacher, it's like really hard to get it the way where he's at on the beat. Like, if you listen to that with the drums and you really listen to it, it's got this kind of a weird, funky sound to it because of where he's at. He's not just like doing everything right on the downbeat. Oh, yeah, it's tapping. I mean, I'm no expert on it, and I'm not, really great at it. I don't do it a whole lot. But stuff like that's not really too difficult to play. We'll get to stuff like that eventually. All right. Well, hello, George. Welcome. Yeah, there'll be the rerun you can watch, and if you just go to the channel too, I've done quite a few videos on just stuff with rhythm playing, like certain riffs that are really good for exercising your hands and getting down rhythm. Some Doobie Brothers, AC/DC. Actually, I think that from Master of Puppets is like a really good exercise too, and I believe that I have a video for that as well. Oh, thank you, Crit. I appreciate that. All right. Well, does anybody else have any questions or anything? Like I said, it doesn't need to be about what we went over. Just any guitar stuff, in general. Thanks, Jersey. And it's correct me if I'm wrong, but it really seemed like everybody really seemed to dig what we did last night with when I was showing you that amp. So I'll do more of that kind of stuff in the near future. I've got tons of gear that I can dig out and we can check out. Hello, Scott. No worries. You can always watch rerun. Oh, hi, Oscar. It's funny. I'm doing these an hour later than I had been before, and partially it's because of my schedule, and then partially because of it just kind of seemed like that most people were kind of coming in late. And now here we are, we're an hour late, we're 45 minutes in, and that's the same thing's happening. Can't keep going too much later. We'll be doing this when everyone's in bed. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Rick. Oh, Crit, you're gonna get a Katana, a Boss Katana amp. Oscar, you've been sharpening knives, man. You got a lot of patience. Am I still playing in a band? Theoretically, we've been on somewhat of a hiatus for a couple of years now. We ran into some issues with some lineup changes and stuff, and then some people in the health issues with members of the band, and then COVID happened, and then we just kind of haven't really gotten back. COVID like really affected me personally as far as my business and stuff, and so I've been really trying to get recovered from that. Yeah, but I haven't played live in quite a while. Well, all right. Well, if nobody has any questions or anything, then we can wrap this up. But again, I appreciate everybody that keeps coming and sitting with me on Tuesday and Wednesday nights now. I'm trying to make this be a thing, every Tuesday and Wednesday. And sometimes it'll be a lesson like this. Sometimes it'll be like it was last night. I've got the one I did where I had all the one on underrated guitarists. I got some more stuff like that coming as well. So trying a bunch of new things. Oh, thanks for joining us, Scott. Have a great night. All right. Well, again, thanks everybody. If you like what I'm doing, hit the thumbs up button, leave a comment. When this is over, go leave a comment on the actual video and not just the live chat. Although this is saved and I read through all of this stuff, but all of that kind of stuff just helps, that whole YouTube algorithm thing they talk about, and it helps the my bosses know that I'm doing a good job for them and that y'all like what I'm doing. So yeah, subscribe to the channel. Besides these two, I keep saying two. We've only done it 2 times. I think this is the second time I've actually managed to do it 2 days in a row. But I'm really going to try to just make that a thing. But aside from that, then I also do 2 or 3 just regular YouTube lessons for this channel, and plus we have like shorts from Silvio Gasquez, the Guitar Idol finalist. Really awesome, just smoking good player. So there's lots of cool stuff, so you want to, subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss any of the stuff. All right. Well, again, thanks everybody. Oh, thank you, George. I appreciate you being here. Matt Galan, long time no speak, man. How is everything going? The heaviest riff I know. I don't know if that's the heaviest one I know, it's the one I could think of right now. All right. Well, again, thanks everybody. Really appreciate it. This is really awesome, and I will see you guys next week, and we'll just have to see what we got in store for you then. But have a great night, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with me. Really appreciate it. I'll see you next week.